Hello and welcome to the Slip Slip Sis YouTube channel. I am Che, half of your Slip Slip Sis duo, and we have a special guest today.
Hello.
What's your name?
I'm Inger.
Inger is my friend who has been staying with me for the weekend. We went to see Ed Sheeran together, so I'm getting a little bit of a head start on this next labor that I have up next. So we have like 47 minutes before we have to do our next exciting task. So I have looped in my partner here to help me with labor number 4, labor number 5 of the 12 labors of Knitcules, which is the Augean stables, which is where Hercules was tasked with cleaning out the stables of like these horses that were like absolutely filthy. And so our interpretation is that I will be cleaning out here. We're going to swirl you around. We're going to be cleaning. By cleaning, I'm actually going to be cataloging all of my yarn stash. So Inger is now going to be my handy dandy assistant, which brings us back, I would say, almost like, how old are we now? Like 4 years? Because Inger was my student worker at my very first job and ever at the ripe age of 22. I was in charge of this one. We had quite a few ridiculous tasks together. So I think some of the trauma is going to come back to her of that. Yes. So I will do an overview of the stash and the plan for that in just a moment. But let's get going. So this is my stash here for the integrity of the challenge. I'm just going to focus on cataloging the full skeins that I have here in these different little cubbies. I have more skeins. Those are like some partials out there, minis. Those are technically 50-gram full ones. So if we feel called to that challenge, I may do that or kind of give up on that because I make my own rules. Down there, that is my partial skein box, but that is going to be part of a different challenge. So we are going to focus on these for now, and maybe we'll try and, since I have her help, tackle like either the purples and reds or the pinks because those ones are the big ones. Okay, I forgot to say one part. The app that I will be using to track my stash is actually called Knit and Note. It is a new to me app. I usually track like all of my projects and stuff on the shared Ravelry that I have with my sister. However, I haven't been a huge fan of tracking my stash on Ravelry, so I'm trying this new app that actually my friend Michaela had been using to track her stuff. And so I just realized you don't actually have to upload pictures to Knit and Note, which actually might be kind of helpful because I feel like the attaching the pictures to the thing can take quite a bit. So we're going to see how this goes. I realize like the picture might be helpful so that you can like actually know which one is on there. But I think for me, I'm more interested in tracking like how much yarn I have and of different weights. So this might be a good way to see that. Okay, all of the pinks have been logged. Woo! That was a big one. So I think I'm going to try and tackle and stick with the big ones, and let's head over to these reds and purples. Okay, so I have finished those top three, sorry, my light's causing glare, those top three cubbies there for cataloging my yarn, and I think it's going really well. I'm feeling pretty accomplished with it all. It's nice to kind of look back through all of my yarn, remember where I got it from, if someone gave it to me, if it's something that my sister and I bought together. So that's been really fun. And oftentimes I'm like, I wonder if Gabs has used hers yet. So that's also been nice. I will say the only thing I wish was a little bit different on the app, which I'll show everything loaded in there once I get it all cataloged, is that it makes little kind of bars for each yarn, and it's cute, super great. I think just instead of putting the brand name as like the bolded header, it puts the type, like the yarn type. So like some dyers, right, will call it fingering, or some will call it sock, some call it, like, has a special name, like Hypnotic Yarn calls it plush sock. And so it puts that name at the top instead of, and then the dyer's name is like the secondary heading, a little bit smaller. So I think for me, and I there might be a way you could fiddle with this in the app that I just don't know about. I wish it would have the dyer's name, because for me, I recognize the dyers more, because honestly, the majority of what I have is going to be fingering weight yarn or sock yarn, so I don't need to know that as much, but it would be nice if I could organize by the dyers alphabetically, so then I could search through those if there's one I'm looking for in particular. So that's been going well. I did think, while cataloging my pinks, or going through my pinks and purples, I had guessed the skein that my sister had taken from me, because if you've watched our first Knitcules video, labor number 12 is that we have to guess the skein that's been taken from us. And she took hers from me, or she took one of mine already. And I thought I had guessed it because I had 2 yarns by the same dyer, and I had cataloged one, but I hadn't cataloged the other. And I knew that the other one was a pink. But then I texted her, I was like, I got it. And she's like, no. And I'm like, you lie. And then she told me that she really wasn't lying to me, and I believe her. So now I'm like, where did I put that yarn? I'm thinking I might have given it to my friend Michaela to work with, but I don't remember. So it's a mystery. I have no idea which one she has taken. It didn't pop up in the self-striping, so I'm hoping I can get it in the browns and oranges and blues and grays zone, but who knows? So I have just about maybe 5 days left for me that I have to finish this challenge. So I am planning on doing at least one of those every day, and then that should give me plenty of time in case I fall a little bit behind. So I'm gonna take a little break now and work on some regular knitting. All right, so I only have one cubby left. It is my yellows, oranges, browns, tans. That last cubby, I did those ones pretty quickly. I actually got through my blues and kind of greens a lot quicker than I thought I would, and I have really been enjoying this whole process because it seems so much more organized. Plus, I have also made at least 5 different guesses for the skein that I think my sister has taken from me. I have been wrong for at least 4 of those, because I learned I either put them in the wrong cubby or have given them away and just forgot that I had done that. So I have really enjoyed this process, so I'm just showing you all of my yarn. Again, we'll do a final wrap up after I finish these ones, but if you want to put down your guess for total yardage that you think I have here, I would love to hear your guesses. All done. Just gotta put these away and do a final little wrap up for you all. Woohoo! Okay. So I just wanted to show you all how it all looks in my stash here, or Knit and Note, the app that I'm using for the stash. I did download it on my iPad so that I could film this from my phone so that you can see what it looks like. But this is kind of what I was talking about, where it puts the yarn type as like the bolded, and then the dyer as like the smaller part, but then it's organized by dyer. So that part is a little confusing for me. It is also in ounces, which I am better with like grams. So I don't know if that's a way, there's like somewhere where I can switch that in the app, but just taking a look here at
all the yarns, and bearing in mind these are just the ones that are like the full 100-gram skeins. This does not include scraps or actually any of those small 50-grammers up there. We're just gonna ignore that for the purposes of what we're doing, because you know what, I make my own challenge, am I right? This also doesn't include that pile of stuff over there that were new acquisitions that I have to show on the podcast, but technically they haven't gone into stash yet because I haven't shown them on the podcast yet. So we're also saying out of sight, out of mind. But this is everything. So final guesses, drop it in the comments. How many, I guess it's by ounces. So how many ounces do you think I have in my stash, and how many yards do you think I have? So these are all of the skeins these are all the ones that I have entered. So we'll wait for your final guess.
All right, so I'm going to assume you all have entered your guesses in for how much in terms of ounces and how much in terms of yards you think I have in my stash. So final tally, I have 624 ounces in my stash. For crossover or like conversion context, 100 grams is about 3.5 ounces. And then I have 79,309 yards in my stash, yards. So most of these being fingering skeins, so anywhere from 400 to 463 yards. There's a couple of DK are in there. I think I have one worsted included in like my indie dyed full skein yarn stash. So what it doesn't actually tell me, which I think is kind of a bummer, is how many skeins I have or how many different entries that I have in here. So while the entry process was relatively easy for using this app, there are some of the organizational pieces that I think I would love to see to make it easier for me to keep track. I did find it interesting as I was adding these because they do categorize by brand that you're in. So I was able, like once I entered in a dyer and the type of base that I have for that dyer, because for a lot of these dyers I have multiple of their bases, I could just add in another colorway. So that part I did really like. And I do wish though that it was like, again, by dyer, so then I can be like, it's all gonna, so breaking yarn is a great example. I love Michaeli's stuff, mostly because I love Michaeli. So Michaeli, I have 4 different bases of her yarns. So no, 4? 3, maybe 3. I guess I could reference the thing. No, I have 4 different bases of Michaeli stuff. So I have a quarter round fingering, I have a her sock DK, her sock fingering weight, and then her swish DK base. Those were 4 different entries on this app that I have here, where I think I would have preferred where if it was like breaking yarn, and then I could have the different types of bases I have of breaking yarn, and then under those bases, what colorways I have for each of those. So I am by no means a computer scientist or developer, app developer, but if it were me, that's kind of the method that I would do. But again, this process was pretty fun because I could see those trends in the dyers that I have, multiple of their skeins. So one that's really popular for us is Earl Grey Fiber Company. My sister and our dad and I have been a huge fan of hers. I don't think she's dying anymore, unfortunately. So I have still actually quite a few of Earl Grey Fiber Companies. Let's double check. I have, let's go to the E's. I have 5 different Earl Grey Fiber Company skeins, but a lot of them I have 2 or 3 from the same dyer. Again, a couple of them I have maybe like a sock or a fingering, and then maybe like a DK base. My most popular, though, I wonder if you can guess which dyer I have the most of. This might be an advantage for folks who've been with us for a while. But the one that I have the most of for these large, like, you know, the full 100-gram skeins, so not counting like my Knit Picks Felici, which I have a ton of, is going to be Hypnotic Yarn. And I think Cheryl has an advantage because one, I'm pretty sure her base, her plush sock and plush DK is my favorite base. I don't know who her supplier is, but it is probably the like most cozy, softest yarn. So it's my favorite to work with. And so I have a number of plush sock yarns from Cheryl, as well as a number of plush DK. And the advantage is because I have had a past of 2, actually 3 technically, different subscriptions, but I had, so my sister and I did Yarnable together. If you check out our Colorado vlog, you can see our journey of making our scrappy socks from the Yarnable subscription we had for a year together that we were splitting. And I'm currently a Yarnable subscriber, and I get that, so that year with Gabs, I got sock weight, and when now, as my own individual solo act subscriber, I get DK weight. So that means I have 5 DK weight skeins from Hypnotic Yarn or the Yarnable subscription. I will say at least 1, 2, 3 of these are actually not from my subscription. Sometimes Cheryl posts one of a kind, or like the not quite yarnable. She calls them the perfectly imperfect skeins, or she has extra boxes and she'll often discount those. So I've gotten some past boxes. Sometimes you can get the full box or just the yarn. Typically I opt for just the yarn. And so I have some like past boxes where I wasn't a subscriber, where I was able to still get those yarns. And then I have quite a few of her plush sock, because for a while Cheryl was also running a Patreon for Hypnotic Yarn, and I was, I believe, the bronze tier. I think I was the bronze tier, and part of that tier, so I paid a monthly, sorry, my getting a lot of emails right now, where for my tier I paid like a monthly amount, and as part of that Patreon I got a 50-gram skein of fingering weight yarn, and we all who were in that tier got to vote on the inspo picture, and then we would get, it was called Inner Circle is what we were a part of for that Patreon. So that was awesome. So I have a ton of colors from that I have not used yet. So I have 9 Hypnotic Yarn plush socks. So that 9 plus that 5, that's 14 skeins I have from Hypnotic Yarn. So Hypnotic Yarn has definitely taken like the cake, I will say, for the heaviest hitter in Shaylee's stash. I will say this was a really methodical process. I really enjoyed it because as I was going through a lot of these different skeins, I remembered why I had picked them up. So that was really nice. I am not one of those people who gets overwhelmed by the amount of things in their stash. I'm just like, oh, they're like each little friends for me, and who doesn't want, you know, what was it? 79,000 yards worth of friends. So I really enjoyed it. It made me excited about more of my skeins that I do want to work with. So maybe a commitment is to not necessarily stash down, but work through some of the yarns that have been there for a while that I know I'm still excited to have. And so to turn them into something else very beautiful that makes me very happy. So while this was a little bit of a laborious effort, I enjoyed it. I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to keep up with it. It's just not something that is really critical to me. I think it was a fun exercise, but I'm not really feeling like this is necessary. It doesn't stress me out. I don't need to know what I have. I'll figure it out if I'm looking for something. I'm pretty sure I do now know what my sister has taken from me for our Labor 12, so you'll have to stick around to see if I'm right about that. But I would say success, it's done. That's what matters. Thank you so much for watching. Stick around for the next Knitcules labor, and also check out our daily Vlogtober vlogs that Gabs and I are switching off of. We always appreciate your support of our channel, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, nighttime, whenever you're watching this, and we'll see you soon.